Nación Noticias, and this is Jonathan Corona, and
Ivan Rico.
today we're going to be talking about the Cold War.
How fucked up it was.
So the Truman Doctrine was an American foreign policy whose stated purpose was to counter the Soviet geopolitical expansion into the Cold War. This was stated this started in March 12, 1947. It was announced to Congress by President Harry. More generally, the Truman implied American support for other nations allegedly threatened by Soviet communism. The doctrine was formally extended to become basis of American Cold War policy throughout Europe and around the world. It shifted American policy towards the Soviet Union from anti-fascism ally to a policy of containment of Soviet expansion as advocated by diplomat George Kennan. And then President a year later, on April 3rd, put the Marshall Plan to effect. It was initiative passed in 1948 to aid Western Europe, which the United States gave $12 billion, which is nearly $100 billion in 2018 US dollars.
That's a lot.
It was to rebuild Western Europe after World War II.
That's crazy.
It has been cited at the beginning of the Cold War between the United States, its European allies, and the Soviet Union, which had effectively taken control of much of Central and Eastern Europe, established satellite republics as communist nations, which the United States did not appreciate.
Warsaw Pact, formerly Warsaw Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation and Mutual Assistance Treaty, establishing a mutual defense. I love like that. A treaty established. Should I just say the whole thing? Yeah, I can have a full point. Warsaw Pact, formerly Warsaw Treaty and Friendship, Cooperation, Manual Assassination. Not assassination.
Warsaw Pact, formerly Warsaw Treaty of Friendship, Cooperation, and Mutual Assistance Treaty, establishing a mutual defense organization, which just put the Soviet Union, Albania, Bulgaria, a Russian country, East Germany, Hungary, Poland, and Romania as allies, friends. In like war were to start out, they would become
very good friends.
Close, yeah, and help each other out. And then the Berlin blockade was one of the first international crises of the Cold War, which is like a big event of it. And then it was during the multinational occupation of post-World War II Germany. The Soviet Union blocked the Western Allies railway. Like they couldn't transport goods from, tradies or bought into their allies. Like they blocked access to Berlin under the Western control. Like they completely took over it.
Treaty organization known as the NATO. The Cold War was in full swing as the Soviet Union was rising to power, capturing countries. In response to this, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was formed. The NATO is formal allies between the territories of North America and Europe. On June 25th, when around 75,000 North Korean soldiers crossed the 38th parallel, the boundary between the Soviet-backed Democratic People's Republic of Korea of the North and the pro-West Republic of Korea to the south.
That was the Korean War. Basically, that's how it started. They crossed, and then they wasn't supposed to,
and they got killed for doing that.
Yeah, and then that's how it started. Now the Vietnam War, that was on November 1st, 1955. This one surprisingly lasted about 20 years. It's one of the causes was because America believed that communism was spreading all over Southeast Asia. The United States and the Soviet Union could risk an all-out, like they couldn't risk an all-out nuclear war against each other because it would have been big. It would have been basically like a world war between them two.
Period of the easing of Cold War tensions between the U.S. and the Soviet Union from 1967 to 1979. The era was a time of increased trade and cooperation with the Soviet Union and signing of the SALT treaties. It was taken to meet increased openness and transportation in government situations and activities in the Soviet Union. Apparently reflection to a committed to getting Soviet citizens to discuss publicly the problems of their system and seize solutions. Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty a treaty Brashovia was a political movement for reforms within the Communist Party of the Soviet Union during the 1980s and is widely associated with Soviet leaders Nikoli Gorbachev as his glasnost, which means openness policy reforms. Intermediate Range Force Nuclear Forces Treaty. Nuclear arms control accord reached by the United States and the Soviet Union in 1987, in which those two nations agreed to eliminate their stocks in range and shorter range, or sometimes medium-range land-based missiles, which can carry nuclear. The Token Gulf, it was passed on August 7, 1964, by the U.S. Congress after an alleged attack on two U.S. naval destroyer stationed off coast of Vietnam. The Gulf of Tonkin resolution efficiently launched America's full-scale involvement in the Vietnam War. So that's what created, that's what made the U.S. go to the Vietnam War.
At the end, those were quick summaries of quick events and things that happened during the Cold War, which lasted from 1947 to 1991. It was a rivalry that, after World War II, there was still a lot of rivalry, and like the Soviet Union was a communist place, and the United States were against communism. They did not like any of that, and they just didn't agree to that. So they wanted to free the people under communism, and the main point of the Cold War was that they had different ideas about economics and government. They fought the war to try to like, get more land. It was geopolitical, ideological, and economic struggle between two world superpowers, the USA and the Soviet Union. It was after the World War.
On November 4, 1979, 500 Muslim students seized the United States Army base in Iran. Of these, 90 people in the base, 66 hostages were taken. Out of the original 66 hostages, 14 were released early and 55 were kept.